Hello, everybody. Welcome. We are truly honoured today to welcome you to the International Jazz Day in Sydney at the Sydney Opera House in partnership with UNESCO, the Herbie Hancock Institute of Jazz, and the Arts Unit of the New South Wales Department of Education. A very quick but important piece of housekeeping before we proceed. There is no photography or videoing at all. The bathrooms are outside in the box office area. Before we continue, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and to pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Without further ado, this workshop session explores the fundamentals of jazz improvisation and performance with none other than Mr. James Morrison. James Morrison is a virtuoso trumpeter, a composer, a multi-instrumentalist, and he is Australia's most acclaimed musician. At 16, he made his debut at the Monterey Jazz Festival and would then go on to play at international festivals with the likes of Dizzy Gillespie, Ray Brown, Quincy Jones, Herbie Hancock, Cab Calloway, George Benson, Ray Charles, B.B. King, and Wynton Marsalis. In 2000, Morrison was selected to compose and perform the opening fanfare of the Olympic Games right here in Sydney. He has recently established the acclaimed James Morrison Academy of Music, which has partnered with the Juilliard School to offer an exclusive honours jazz program, and he has been awarded an Order of Australia for his services to music. Among other things, he also has an honorary doctorate from both Griffith University and Edith Cowan University. So please make him feel very welcome, Mr. James Morrison.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here today and what better to talk about than jazz improvisation and performance. That's pretty much what I like to do most of the time. I do have to say before we go any further that I won between you and I on the view stakes. You're looking at me and I'm looking at Sydney Harbour. I'm sorry. But I'll try and make it as interesting as I can so you feel like you're facing the right way. I think the best thing to do when a group of people get together in a room, anytime for any reason, but particularly when they're there for music, is to hear some. So I think I need to play a little piece to start with, just so we feel like we're here for music, and then we can start talking about it. We are going to have a chance for questions, not just at the end, but as we go through today. So if there's things you want to ask as we go, be ready with those questions. Okay, let's play a little something. That's better. Morning blues, and also kills a few birds with one stone. I've done my warm-up for today now. So, jazz, improvisation, performance. Of course, it's a performing art. And if you look at those two words for a sec, there's all this art involved, but it must be performed. And I've often likened it to standing in front of this art here, to art that hangs on the wall. The person that created that did it presumably on their own somewhere, in their own time, take as long as you want. And when it's done, when they're ready, they present it. And the real difference with jazz, with music, but particularly jazz, because of that improvisation aspect, is we actually paint it in front of everybody while they're watching. And so if you want to rub a bit out, they get to watch you do that too. And even music that's all written beforehand, in a way the composer is like the painter. Now, the performers still have to now perform it on the spot, and we all know that you can hand out the same written music to 10 different orchestras, and it will sound 10 different ways. The performance is very, very a real part of that. But with jazz, we go even a step further, of course, and it goes not even written down. There may be a tune that we're going to play. It may have chord changes that go with it. But as to what we'll actually play, the notes we'll play, when we'll play them during that performance, most of it will be, I'm just going to paint something here now and see how that works out. And then improvisation makes this performing art something that's quite different to anything else, I believe. It's about creating on the spot in front of the people that are, supposed to be the beneficiaries of that creation. And they play a role in it. And so if I could maybe, with those things we're talking about today, jazz and improvisation and performance, start from the performance end and say, when I'm playing, all of you in the room are a part of that. I feel that while I'm playing. And you walk into a room, it's got an atmosphere in it, it has a feeling, a vibe, and that changes how you play if you're attuned to it. And I've found all of the greatest performers, the greatest musicians I've ever heard play live, very, very much were affected by what's going on in the room. Not just by the other musicians on the stage, but by the actual feeling in the room. And I'm sure you've had the opportunity, if you haven't, wait till you do, of being in an audience where the audience you can feel you become part of the performance, where people are actually responding to what's going on stage. Why is jazz one of the few types of music where people applaud during the song? Think about that. Someone takes a solo, we all applaud while they're still playing. You don't do that in nearly any other kind of music. And that's because you're part of the performance. It makes a difference to what happens, that feedback. And so I'm very, very much sort of feeling what's going on in a room and playing accordingly, and it changes how you perform. Now, that being the case, there's a whole lot of stuff behind that. Who here improvises? Let's talk about improvisation. Yeah, lots. Look at that. Nearly everyone in the room. And anyone who didn't put up their hand, you quite reasonably assumed I meant in a jazz setting on a musical instrument. But actually, the question was who improvises? And of course, the answer to that is everybody. Everybody improvises. Otherwise, on your way here today, every conversation you had with your friends, you wrote down last night. That's weird. Sometimes we do write down a speech, absolutely. But think about it, most of your meaningful communications, you improvise all the time. You look at the other person, you think about, what do you do when you communicate with someone? You think, what do I want to say? Usually not how will I say it. There are times in life you're going, how am I going to say this? But that's special times. Most of the time you just think, what do I want to say? Then you start talking. You don't even know how the sentence is going to end, do you? Think about it. If I said to any of you here, invite someone to come and see a movie on Saturday night, you wouldn't go, all right, let me see. I'll need to put Saturday night in there and say that it's a movie. It's an invitation. So you don't do that. You just go, oh, okay, do you want to come to the movies? I'm going on Saturday night. And you just start talking. And you don't even know how the sentence will finish. But you're fine with that because you know what you want to say. You know what the message is. Improvising on your instrument is the same. And very much the experience for me is, what do I want to say? How do I want this to feel? Think about it. You could say, I'm going to a movie on Saturday night. Would you like to come? There's a very different feeling to, I'm going to the movies on Saturday night. Do you want to come? Same words. What feeling do you want to create? And that's how you speak. The words you use, everything. The phrasing. It's exactly the same. What feeling would I like now? That's how I'll play. And I don't start a phrase knowing how it's going to end or even what the next note is. Just as you don't know what the next word is. In fact, you're not even thinking about the words. Why are you so good at that? This is going to be a really easy question. Why are you so good at inviting people to the movies or just having a conversation? Because you've done it so many times. You do it all day, every day. Oh, that's right, it's practice. That had to come up at some stage. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And so the language, if I said to any of you here, and I'm just going to assume because I've done this in a workshop where I said, what if I asked you to do it in Russian? And I pointed to someone, he started speaking Russian. Blew the whole thing. Assuming you don't speak Russian or whatever language I might pick, and I know I've got a couple of friends here who do speak Russian, if I said, great, now invite me to the movies in Russian, you just stand there silent. You know exactly how to invite someone to the movies, you know what you want to say, you don't know the language. And that can happen when you're playing your instrument too. You can stand there and go, I know how I want this to feel. I can even hear sounds in my head, but I don't understand this language well enough. So what do you do when you want to speak a language? You learn the vocabulary, you learn the grammar. And you know when you hear either a very young person speaking a language you already speak, or if you go to learn a new language, and you're aware when you start speaking it, you might know the words, but you're going to sound a bit funny. Like some of the words are going to be around the wrong way and things like that. Same on your instrument. I'm going to blow on this tune. I know what I want. And you go, yeah, that's kind of what I meant, but it's a little bit round the other way, or it's not quite flowing. Same. It's very, very much like that. Of course, you get better by doing it and by hearing it. If you wanted to learn to speak Russian as quickly as possible, what would you do? Buy a book on Russian? Nah. And let's just translate each one of these. Buy a book on jazz? No. I mean, buying a book on Russian is a good idea, don't get me wrong, but it's not the way to learn it quickly. It wouldn't be the only thing you did. Buy a book on jazz, please. But no, what would you do if you wanted to learn Russian? You'd go to Russia, exactly. You'd just go to Russia. You'd be surrounded by the sound. And no one here said, well, depends on if there's a Russian teacher available. No one thought that. They said, go to Russia. We all know instinctively, just be surrounded by the sound. Want to be a jazz musician? Go to Jazzland. And you've got to create that yourself. It's not a place, but it's a way of living. It's listening to lots of jazz all the time. Make it like you're learning, make it like you're surrounded by Russian-speaking people or French people, whatever languages you want to learn. Be surrounded by people playing jazz. If you can't do that physically all the time, and that's the best way, get with other people playing jazz as much as you can. If you can't do it physically, get onto online and just start listening to jazz, and as much as you can. And the other thing you'd have to do, if you spent quite some time in Russia just listening and never spoke, you still wouldn't be able to do it right. You got to try it all the time. You got to walk in and try and order a coffee in Russian, give it a go. And what if you said, well, I'm not going to say this because it might sound funny? How do you reckon your Russian lessons are going to go? Not too well. You got to have a go. You got to try it and hear the sound come out of your mouth and go, that doesn't sound like them. And you adjust it. Same thing. You got to go. You can't, as a player, go, well, I'm not kind of ready to, don't know if I can play it. Have a go. Got to keep trying. And it's by hearing that it doesn't sound how you wanted it to sound that you adjust. And it sounds more and more like what you hear. I bet everyone here has also had that experience that either you or a friend has gone to another country where they speak English and come back and they sound different. Like you go to the United States, you come back with a bit of an American accent. Anyone done that? Someone who's been over there for a while. Why does that happen? Because you go over and go, I want to sound American. Well, it might be. But mostly it's what's around you. You just end up without trying to. You start to sound like what's around you. It's what we do. All of us here, and I'm hoping you all do speak English, otherwise this could be quite a boring session, but probably have different accents to some degree. People from Adelaide sound different than people from Sydney. You can pick the accent and different parts of Australia. And also within you say, what does a Sydney sider sound like? Oh, it depends on which suburb. And then within the suburb, which family? You know what I mean? Like, the people next door sound different to us. An accent, you can hear it. But why? Have they learnt that? No. It's what they heard growing up. You hear parents speaking, and you start speaking like they do. You use a lot of the same terms, a lot of the same accent, and then you get with your friends at school, and that has more of an influence because you spend more time with them usually, and you start talking like your friends do. Same thing happens musically. Who are you hanging out with musically, either physically or online? That's who you're going to sound like. As long as you listen to it a lot and do it a lot. Same things you do with your voice. And so that's learning the language. The language of jazz, you've got a way better chance of then playing what you want to play. Now, no matter how much you learn the language, when we're young kids and we're growing up, without anyone telling us, we learn this thing where you keep changing words. They go up. I'll say something that's big, bigger, biggest. I'm not aware of ever being taught that. You just hear it and you get to know what that means, which is why nearly every kid at some stage says bestest, don't they? Oh, that's the best and that's the bestest. You go, there's no such word, but it makes sense because there's biggest, there's greatest, there's all the other things, and so we just put it together. but then we learn after a while all these grammatical exceptions and things. That's your theory in music. You can just listen and say, I'm just going to listen and play, and you could be a great musician. There have been many that have. But how much quicker will you get there apart from anything else? And how much more succinct will you be with what you want to say if you actually do a bit of study then and find out, well, this is a G7, 13, sharp 11. That means these notes. This scale fits with that. This is the arpeggio. Okay, that's like learning grammar. And just as a 3-year-old can tell you about their trip to the zoo on the weekend, can they ever? When you say, what was it like? But to be a great author, they're going to need to learn how to conjugate verbs and all sorts of things. Same. You can play the blues, you can play jazz, just listen and play what you hear. But to be a great author, the equivalent in music, then you better learn some of that theory. But who walks up to a toddler and says, or a baby that doesn't speak yet and says, hi, well, we're going to learn English today. We'll start with the alphabet. You don't teach them like that. And this is a verb, by the way. You're a noun. Who does that? You walk up and you go, mama. Or, in my case, dad. And they do it and you go, look at that, you can speak. A genius. Okay? So imagine then walking up to someone who wants to learn jazz. You want to learn jazz? Great. Okay, well, these are the chords. What? That's like starting with the alphabet with a kid. You say, here's how it sounds. It's the first thing you do. And I would urge you to approach your music the same way. Now, I know I'm talking to a lot of people here because everyone put up their hand, they will improvise. You're way past that. But every step along the way, do you find the next step through the theory? Or do you find the next step through hearing something and go, I like that. That sounds great. And trying to play it, trying to find it. And when you've found it, and you come to it that way because of an emotional response, then you go, what is that? Now let's look up the theory. Okay. That way, for the rest of your life, when you want that feeling or you hear that sound, you'll go straight to, if I'm going saxophone here, piano, it doesn't matter, whatever, you go straight that way. You won't go, oh, that's a 13 sharp 11. That's information you've got on the side if you need it. That's how you identified it after you'd heard it, so that you could find it again. That makes sense? Like, you hear something, you go, that's a great sound. If we don't name it and learn what it is, later on when you go, I want the great sound, which one? You know what I mean? You need a label for it so you can find it again. Imagine if we didn't label the letters of the alphabet. I know what they look like, I know what they sound like, we won't give them names. It'd be complicated. So we do the same, we learn the theory. But we don't come to it from the theory. Every kid knows what a cat is before they learn CAT. Okay? Otherwise it doesn't mean anything. Same. Hear the sound, feel it, go, that's what that sound does. I can even play that sound. Maybe not as quickly as I want to, maybe not in every key, but I can make that sound. I can create that feeling. Now, what is it? So I can find it again, and so I can do it in every key, and so I can do it in lots of different situations. And I would urge you, no matter what stage you're at in your music, for the next step, lead it with, how does it feel? How does it sound? What does it do? When I play that. And then find out what it's called, rather than the other way around. Just because that's how you'll remember it. It'll always mean something to you one way or the other. And you will find people that have learnt the theory first very heavily and learnt lots of theory that they can't use yet and then gradually catch up with their ears and their emotions. They'll tell you, they've told me, they spend quite some time then trying to get out of that. They become quite experienced, capable players, but they say, now I just got to try and I can't be free. I've got all this stuff. It's a syndrome that happens often towards the end of university. I've learned all this stuff, now I've got to try and forget it all. I'll never forget the great advice I was given by Dizzy Gillespie, and it was a great line. I was 16, I think, and I asked him a question, which was, looking back, an interesting one. I said, how do you play like that? Nice, succinct, to the point question. And he said, and he answered, and I kid you not, he looked at me very seriously. There was a group of us there, kids, all about 16. He said, you got to learn all of your scales, all your modes, all your arpeggios. He said, you got to learn all of the bebop heads. And we're going, all the bebop heads? Well, okay. He said, in every key. We went, oh, we're going, wow, yeah, we knew it'd be an answer like this. This is going to be hard. Well, I mean, it had to be, right? And he went through this great list, which I won't tell you now, of things. And then he stopped and he laughed. And he said, then you forget all that and just play. And he was right. You do need to know all that, but then you do have to forget all that and just play. You can't be thinking about that when you're playing. Imagine if as you went to speak to someone, in our example of invite them to a movie, you began with, okay, oh, that's a verb, that's an adjective. I'll put the adjective before the noun. I mean, you could never speak. They'd be go, are you okay? You go, yeah, I'm just going to invite you to move a bit. Hang on. Making sure, I'll conjugate that with this, I'll do that, yeah, and then we'll go in there, and that'll have an implied comma. Okay, going to the movies on Saturday, do you want to come? It would be like that. You can get like that if you've got too much theory going on in your head. And yet, anyone, particularly a great author, and remember, in this example with language and music, this is what we want to be, great authors. Ask any great author, give them a page of script and say, find me the verbs. You know what I mean? They're going, I don't know, I just write. No one's going to say that. Okay, so that's how I kind of view this theory side and learning how to do this. Now, we might just stop right here for a second and have a couple of questions as we move on, because I'm going to get into some other things. But anyone got any questions so far? Yes. Just wait till the mic gets to you, because they're filming and everything, and they'll need to hear what you say. No pressure. Make sure you've got the verbs in the right place.
Can you speak a bit maybe about how Louis Armstrong has influenced your playing?
Oh, wow, yes. How Louis Armstrong has influenced my playing and everybody's playing and the music itself. The main thing about Louis' playing, I mean, he was of course, a great trumpeter and a great improviser. And there's all sorts of things we could analyse about his playing, but your question was how he's influenced me. Joy. Just when he played, it was instantly like, oh, it just always lifted you. It didn't matter what was going on, how you felt. You hear Louis start to play and you go, and it just feels joyful. And I mean, we all know how he looked. You've seen footage. I mean, most of the time he's smiling and he has this beaming face, and there's energy that came from him when he played. So the biggest influence on me was absolutely when I first heard him play. I didn't go, I want to play the trumpet like that. And this is probably a really succinct answer to your question. I didn't say I want to play the trumpet like that or sound like that or be able to improvise like that. I said, I want to walk into a room and make it feel like that. He walks into a room and it feels like that. That's what I'd like to be able to do. And that was the influence, to remember how he made people feel and say, wow, imagine if you could make, you know, a room feel like that, if you could help people to feel like that. That was the biggest influence he had. Then, it's almost like the theory and the feeling thing. Then I went, okay, now what's he playing? and what an innovator. I mean, sometimes we can forget that these days and go, he was fantastic and amazing, but of course it was very straight ahead. Not at the time it wasn't. Wow, breaking ground left, right and centre and exploring and doing all sorts of things. But always with that great feeling of joy, always with, come with me. And there's a great quote, unfortunately I may not have it word for word. I usually read it if I want to tell an audience this. But he said, I never tried to do anything special. He said, I just wanted to put on a good show. He said, because no matter what you're doing, if you can't lay it on the people, what good is it? That's what he said. And I thought, yeah, you can hear that when he plays. He's going, I've got to be able to lay this on you. If I can't lay it, in other words, if you're not in this with me, what's the point? You know, and when you think about it, if you're going to make music in a room, in a space, anywhere, if you're going to make music and you go, well, it doesn't matter if anyone hears this or not, why go and perform it? I mean, I can just play it at home if I don't need you to hear. If I don't care what you think about it, why don't I play it at home? And then I go one step further myself. I've thought this through. Why play it? I can hear it. I can hear what it will sound like when I play it. I don't even need to pick up the trumpet. So if my music is just for me, and that's all it's for, and I don't care whether it's for anybody else at all, then I can just sit. I don't need a trumpet. I don't need valve oil. Now, there's a relief. And just hear it. The whole idea of music for me, and it comes from that Louis thing. Wow, did he have this so strongly? He was like the father of this. It's about sharing that. You got this music and you go, oh, wow, that feels like this. You go, I want you to feel like this. I'll play it. I'll write it, whatever, so you get to feel it too. That's the whole purpose. Otherwise, why not just sit there and feel it? And by the way, I'm not insinuating there's anything wrong with that. By all means, I'm sure there are people sitting on a mountaintop somewhere now meditating who are having amazing revelations and they feel no compunction to tell anyone else about it. Absolutely. It's your life. It's the human experience. But if you're going to be part of a performing art, the whole reason for that is to share it with someone. And Louis was perhaps the greatest example of that I've ever seen. There are many, but boy, that was the main thing about him. I promise not to answer that long on every question, unless it's that good a question. Louis, you got to say something. Anything else at this stage you want to ask? Someone got anything to ask? Yes, over here.
How long have you been playing jazz?
Um, I started playing music at the age of 6, and then I heard jazz the first time when I was 7. And so sometime late, 7, 8-ish, I started playing jazz. As in, I learnt the Basin Street Blues was the first song I learned, and started playing. And when I was 9, I think I had my first band, which is some mates and I got together, and we used to go and play out the front of the shopping centre on Saturday mornings. And we played. I know one of our big opening numbers was Maple Leaf Rag. I just remember that. I don't know why, but so a long time. I don't know how good it was then, and I want to say something about that too when we talk about performance, that idea that it can be good or better or worse. It wasn't very advanced, but it was good. And I can say that not like I'm not blowing my own trumpet. Thank you. But what I mean was we were having a great time, and the people listening were going, wow, they're having a great time, and they were feeling it too. So at whatever level we were playing, physically able to play, and what we knew about jazz wasn't the main thing about it. It was we were just having such a great, I always loved it. And I still do. And the funny thing is today, I can play the trumpet quite a bit better than I could when I was 9. And I know a whole lot more about jazz and chords and theory and all songs and everything. And yet, every time I pick the thing up and go to play, I try to get that feeling I had when I was 9. We used to go, wow, this is great. Because that's what it's about. So, but that's how long? Oh, how long? That's when I started. That's 47 years, something like that. From 9, something like that. I'm 56, and like most musicians, really good at maths. Any other questions? We move on. Yes, one down here.
Which musicians inspired you to play jazz?
Inspired me to play jazz. It's funny, it wasn't Louis. I mean, I heard him after I'd been inspired to play jazz. It was just local musicians. No one any of you would know unless you're actually friends of them. I was a local guy named Neil Davidson who played the banjo in the local church Dixieland band. And I heard him play and I went, wow, that feels great. And that was some of my first inspirations to I want to play jazz, was just hearing a local band of people that they weren't even professional musicians. They had other jobs. They just played in this band on the weekends. And I always remember that too, by the way. Don't think that the inspirations just come from the greats, and that does, but not only. Anytime anyone makes some music with that feeling, there's a chance there to influence people and to change people, how they feel. That's what music does. So at whatever level. And that's why that band of 9-year-olds, or one of the guys was really old, he was 11, but that band of 9-year-olds were actually playing music and changing how people felt with the skill we had at the time. And I always look at that when someone talks about how great a musician or how good someone is at it. It's a journey. I don't use those terms when I'm teaching at the academy. I talk about how far along are you in the journey. Someone who's way better is actually, I would describe them as further along in their journey. Because let's take a great musician. Who's a great musician? You tell me who's a name of a great musician, anyone you like. Sorry? So, Ed Sheeran. Any musician we take, we can go back a time. Now, they're a great musician. We go, okay, let's go back to when he was 20. Oh, it still sounded great. 15. Oh, great player at 15. You go, wow, that's unusual. 13, 12. We'll get to a time, it doesn't matter who it is, when we can walk in, if we had a time machine, and we go catch them at the school band, or the second day they first picked up an instrument, who it was, the second day Louis Armstrong picked up a trumpet, it may have been better than anyone else who's ever walked the earth on their second day, but I'll tell you what, it still wasn't good. Maybe the first day, but whatever. We can find a time when the greatest musicians on earth didn't sound very good. And if we'd walked in on that day, and we walked up to their music teacher, maybe it was the first lesson, and said, oh, how's he sounding? You go, he's not very musical. And you go, oh no, that's Louis Armstrong. Are you kidding me? And they go, yeah, I know his name. He's not very musical. You know what I'm saying? Or he shows some promise. What I'm getting at is too early in the journey. Later on, and we don't know, no matter who you hear or how they play or where they're up to, that's where they're up to. It's not how great a musician they are. That's already there. The day Louis Armstrong was born, he was Louis Armstrong, and he had in him what eventually came out. It's just there was a process along the way. And it's the same for everyone. So when I hear a youngster or an older person playing the trombone, I go, we're struggling with a few things here. I go, yes, but I could be listening to Irby Green or Frank Rosolino here just too early. And so you take the next step. And I think about it in those terms. And also, that I was just talking there technically. What about musically? You know, they don't necessarily go together. So it's a journey. And the most important thing is why you're doing it, not what you're doing or how you're doing it, but why you're doing it. And that comes back to that Louis thing. What got me was why he played, so obviously, not how he played or what he played. I was interested in those too. But the main thing was why, because it feels like this. All right, let's go to another topic that I would like to talk to you about. Oh, you certainly can. Hang on, we'll get you the microphone.
If you were the parent of a kid that's very into jazz and music and wants to study, and you had the whole world in front of you to choose from, Univise or which academy would you recommend?
There's a good one in South Australia. There are many. Do you know what? And this is probably a bad idea for me to say this, meaning I probably should be saying, come to my academy. And I do say that. But do you know what? They're like musicians. So who was better, Dizzy Gillespie or Louis Armstrong? It's a silly question. And I don't mean your question was silly, but I'm saying it's a silly question. They're different, right? They're both great. There are wonderful musicians teaching at every institution I've ever been to, and I've been to so many around the world. I haven't found one yet where I go, well, there's nobody here that's any good. They wouldn't exist. There are wonderful musicians who want to pass on this music everywhere. And they all have different cultures, and they all have different ways of doing it, and there are similarities between all these sorts of things. What I suggest to people is, and when anyone applies to come to my academy, I want to hear if they can play, I don't want to hear what they know, but you know what? If they don't know something, I can tell them. That's why we have an academy. No one has ever not gotten into the academy or passed the audition because they didn't know enough about chords. That would be kind of silly, wouldn't it? I'd say, well, I can just tell you when you get here, or I can give you... Some people I've said, you know what, it's going to be much better for you if you know this by the time you arrive. It's now November, we start in March, you're in, here's some stuff to study before you come. Just learn this theory you don't know. I'm happy to do that. So that's not why. What I want to know is, how do they learn? What's their culture, if you know what I mean? And do they fit with us? Are they going to get the most out of it? And there are some people, not many, but there are some people who have said, you shouldn't come here, you should go there, because it's going to suit you better. And so I like to talk to people in audition about the culture and how we like to learn. Things like, I don't want to start you with theory. I want to get you to feel it first, then try and play it. We're going to use your ears, and then we're going to discuss the theory. There are people who don't like that, who say, I prefer to know first what's going to happen, and it's really part of them. And I say, don't come to us, you're going to be upset all the time. And there are people who say, oh, I want to go somewhere where it's real about the feeling. And I go, well, don't go here, here, and here. And there are places I know where they don't teach that way. I say, come to us. Or there are some other places that do it like us. So the answer is really depends on who the person is, how they learn. And what I would recommend is talk to people. It's great to talk to people who run the place like me, who teach there, but of course they're going to love their place. That's why they're there. And so they should. Talk to people who've been there. Talk to students who study there and say, what's it like? Don't tell me if it was good or bad, because that just means it suited you. Tell me what it was like. How did you learn? What was that? What were classes like? Did you know what was going to happen, or was it constantly... A student the other day who's finished our course and done honours and been there for years and left now said, I said to them, what was it like coming to my academy? I don't mean what did you learn or this, what was it like? And he said, it was exciting because I never knew what was going to happen next. I'd come in each day and look on the board and see what class am I in today, because we don't have classes where you go, oh, every Thursday you've got this. It's like you've got to look and see what's happening today. I love that. I go, great. There are people who don't like that. And so speak to some people who've studied there, if you can, for everywhere you're considering, what was it like? And then you go, I like the sound of that. That's where I'd go. That's where I'd go. Because we all teach the same stuff. G7 is G7. It's what the atmosphere is like and the culture. That's what I would choose it on, not the information. Yeah. And then we might have a couple more questions, and then I'm going, these are good though. This is stuff I wanted to talk about anyway.
How many hours a day do you practice?
Oh, whoa. Thank you for asking that question. None. Okay, I want to quickly talk about this. This is really important because practice is something... Who here practices? Excellent. All right. I think that, and some people, you think you're going like, well, kind of, I mean to, I just haven't lately. Yeah. Think about this. Who likes practicing? Okay, less hands, but still a lot. We've got a rarefied audience here. This is not a regular room. This is people who've bothered to come all the way here today to listen to me talk about it. So we know you're switched on anyway. But still we had fewer hands. Okay, here's the thing. I think there's far too much practice goes on. I think you should do less. However much you're doing, I think you should do less practice. Shock, horror. The teachers in the room are going, no. What I think you should do is play your instrument more often. And here's what I mean. It's just a way of thinking about it. Who has done this? I'm just going to sit in a chair for this. Who has done this? You're sitting there with your instrument. I won't try and mime. You're sitting there with your instrument. You've got some stuff you're practicing. And you do this, and you're like this, and you're like, And maybe you've got your feet like this, and you're like, yep. And you're looking at it, and you try it again, and you're going, And then you go, okay, I've practiced that enough now. Now I'm going to play it. And you go, all right. What did you just do? What, sat the best way to play a trumpet? Yeah. You might even go, I'm going to play it now. You stand up, a bit more air and everything. Why weren't you playing it properly before? What were you practicing? Because guess what practice does? Practice is just a word we use, meaning I'm not doing it for real yet. I'm just going to do it several times, not for real, so that when it comes for real, I can do it really well. That's what practice is, isn't it? Otherwise, why is it called practice? Why isn't it called performance or playing? Why don't we say, I'm going to go and play in a room? You go, I'm going to go and practice. You're not going to play. Oh, okay. Think about it. It's because of that. I'm not doing it for real yet. Repetition is the mother of skill. Repetition is the mother of skill. You know what that means, right? The more I do something, repeat it, the better I get at it. That's what the whole premise of practice is. If I do it enough times, I'll get good at it. If you practice a lot, what will you get good at? Practicing. Yeah, if you practice enough, you'll get really good at practicing. You'll get good at sitting the wrong way. You get good at looking down while you play. You get good at stopping and starting all the time. So you're going to sit there and practice your piece for 40 minutes and then play it for 5. When you get on stage, I've got news for you. Nobody wants to hear you practice. So you're going to get on stage to play it, which is the thing you do the least of. This is a bad idea. I'm just telling you no, it's a bad idea. What you want to do is play a lot and practice a little. You will need to do some practice. There are times if you give me a piece of music, I'll look at it and I go, oops, hang on, what's that? Stop everything. And I lean forward, I stand badly. I do exactly the same thing. I go, what is that? I go, I try it a few times. I go, okay. I've nearly got that. That's enough. Let's keep playing. It'll get better as I play it. And I get better at playing it by playing it. Rather than get better at playing it by practicing it and getting really good at practicing it and then going, I'm moderately experienced at playing, but very experienced at practicing. Okay. So it's a mindset. Of course, anyone walking past, looking through those, those little windows in the practice room doors, they just see people playing instruments. They can't tell if you're practicing or playing, or they might say, these people seem to be sitting up more. Yeah, they're the ones playing. But mostly, it just looks like you're practicing. The difference is in your head and in your body, in your being, is I'm playing. And so sometimes I stop playing for a moment. And so I would like, if you did an hour's practice, there might be, an hour in a room with your instrument, there might be 10 minutes practice and 50 minutes playing, not the other way around. That's why I say I think you're practicing too much. And excuse me if there's in a room says, that's what I already do, then not you. But I just know most rooms I speak to, everyone's like, I'm going to practice. Now, how about you go and play? Just practice if you need to. Anything you specifically need to, but mostly play. Even a scale you're going to learn. Why not play it? Why practice it? Play it with a good sound. Play it musically. Play it like you go, wow, that sounds great. Rather than, I'm just learning the scale, I'm practicing. I'm not being musical. You go, you're holding a trumpet and you're not being musical? I mean, some people do that on stage, but really, why learn to do that? Seriously. So try it. What happens is, the people who went, I kind of practice a bit, not enough, actually will practice more. As in, because they won't call it practice. They go, I'm going to play. Because playing is enjoyable, playing is fun, playing is fulfilling. Practice is waiting to do something fun and fulfilling. Who wants to do that? Not a lot of people. Now, I'll just have to say this, there's a few people who like practice that I've met. And they say, actually, I like it. I like the feeling of just sitting and working for a while and then playing. Great. Just takes a long time, that's all, because you'll need to leave enough hours to play as well to be good at that as well as being good at practicing. Okay? But if you want to do that, more power to you. I shared a hotel room next to someone like that on tour for 3 months. Oh boy, I drew the short straw. So, yeah, that's what I have to say about practice. Play. And when you're in rehearsal with your band, if you're in a school band or any kind of band, don't you do the same thing? We're rehearsing, go, okay, before we leave, let's play this through, and everyone goes, right. You hear all the chairs move as everyone sits up, gets ready, now we're going to play it. You go, what have you been doing for the last 2 hours? Not playing properly so that we can get really good at this? It makes sense. Okay, just a mindset, but it does change everything. Try it. I think you'll find, wow, I'm getting better faster now. That's because you're doing less practice. Okay, we're coming towards the end of our time, unfortunately. I'm going to play another short thing before we finish, but before we do, we've got time for one more question. Anything else someone would like to ask? Yep, over there. Yep.
You were saying, in a way, it's necessary to know the theory. Do you think if you had learned it when you were 9 years old, things would be different?
I think it's not about, I know what you're asking. I don't think it's about the age. I think it's about each step of the way, because you don't learn all the theory and then go and learn all the practical. You know, you learn theory as you go. Maybe you learn key signatures very early and, up to 3 sharps, and then when you get a bit older, you learn 5 and so on. But I think at each step of the way, the theory I learnt was always to describe something I'd already heard or played or already knew, as in I knew what it felt like. And so I was playing tunes by ear, and then someone said, they're in keys, like you're playing in D at the moment. I went, what's that? And then they explained it. I went, that's handy. Now I know what it means when they say take it up to E flat. And I could now play that melody in E flat because I learned about keys. But I was already playing a song in a key. And so when they described it, I can see how that works. And so I think had I just worked on theory at the beginning, I think the difference for me, I would have had to have a time at some stage that I've seen so many people have where they go, I got all this theory in my head, and it gets in the way, is what people tell me, of when they want to just be free and just improvise. I think if you read music it might not be as bad, but I still think you've got to be free and be able to interpret and play how you want to. And anything I learned, theoretically, I fly planes, I'm a pilot. I flew in planes many times. I got to sit up the front. I felt the controls many times before I was taught about aerodynamics and how it all works and what the technicalities are. And when they told me, I said, oh, that's that feeling. I know that. That's why that's happening. And it just comes to you differently. And for the rest of my life, in those moments, not too often, by the way, where, it's a serious situation, I'm in a storm or something, I have to react very quickly, I don't think theory. I go straight for the feeling. If you go for the theory first, it's like knowing how to speak Russian, but you're a native English speaker. Sometimes you've got to translate in your mind first. No translation, straight to the feeling, because that's how I learnt it. It's my native language, in other words. Maybe that's a good way to put it. You've just taught me something. I've never said it that way before. By coming to the feeling first, whatever I've learned feels like native language rather than something I have to translate. But if I learn the theory first, no one wants the theory. The theory itself is useless. It leads you to playing something which creates a feeling. It's the feeling you want. Why not go straight to the feeling? As I said before, the theory is important so that you can describe what you're doing, catalogue it and remember it and all sorts of things, the way our brains work. But I really think had I, in answer to your question, at the age of 9 learnt the theory first, I think, I would have had a somewhere along the way. To be where I am now, I might be somewhere different. But to be where I am now, I would have had to have a struggle at some stage to go, okay, I've got to now reorder all this so that it's now the feeling that is the main thing for me, and that's where it comes from, not from translating from the theory. But if you've already learned a whole lot of theory, I don't want you to go, oh no, well I've blown it then. That's okay. Spend more time playing. Remember, what we spend most time, don't spend as much time thinking about it, spend more time doing it and feeling it, and it becomes natural. All of those people that have come to me and said, oh, I'm trying to forget all this now, they do forget it. They get there. There are many great players. It's just why go through that struggle. I've got 2 minutes left, and we've got to finish with some sound. I mentioned that Basin Street Blues. I'm sure those of you that know me have heard it millions of times. 1,000,001. Just a little bit of the blues.
Wow. I'm going to throw my notes away and improvise for the rest of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge thank you to Mr. James Morrison. That was fantastic. So that we can get on preparing the rest of the incredible workshops today, we will ask you to quickly make your way out of this room. Just a quick reminder, if you do have a ticket for the next event, you will need to leave, have your ticket rescanned and re-enter, and we'll be opening the doors in 10 minutes. Thank you so much, everybody.